This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular. I, as always, am Glenn Butler, and we are doing Stranger Things 2 this week, because this is the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, where we think with vodka. Joining me to look at the second season of Stranger Things, as always, is Alanna Kelly. Alanna, what have you found to be the greatest paddles on your curiosity voyage?
Oh my god. I love Dustin so much. Like, if you're going to steal things from the library, you should definitely do an incredibly unique catchphrase, so it makes it really hard to catch you. Said no one ever. He's just so... He's so wonderful. Paddles on my curiosity voyage, honestly, one of them is Wikipedia. And probably another one legit is Netflix.
Fair. That is absolutely fair. Okay, so we are here to talk about Stranger Things 2. They're not calling it Season 2 for some reason I do not understand, but whatever.
They're just leaning into their sequel thing. Also, I think they might be done, you know? I think they might be done.
Done how? What do you mean?
Like, I feel like maybe their story is over? Maybe?
Oh,
did you get that feeling?
I doubt that. I did not get that feeling. Did I give a spoiler warning at the beginning of this?
Maybe not. We can go ahead and spoil it.
Okay, let's move right into spoilers if we're going to talk about whether the story's continuing or not. I definitely think that unlike Season 1, which ended with a lot of distinct teases for new character dynamics and different things heading into Season 2, Season 2 at its end doesn't have that quite as much, but it does have that extremely foreboding shot of the Mind Flayer right at the end, kind of looming over the Upside Down school. Yes,
I mean, the Upside Down definitely exists, but, 11 closed the portal.
Well,
like, at the end of Season 1, the portal's still open. And at the end of Season 2, or I'm sorry, Stranger Things 2, the sequel, the portal is shut. I don't know. I guess we'll see. They definitely could make more content, for sure. They have plenty of stuff to do with relationships and some other stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that whatever portal can be closed can be opened again, or they can find another portal or whatever. I mean, you can handle that easily enough. Also, I mean, there's enough remnants hanging around anyway.
True, like where are children 1 through 7 and 9 and 10?
Yes.
Where are they now? That's my lingering question coming out of Stranger Things 2 for sure.
And there was also the really weird tease that I didn't see coming about Papa maybe being alive.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think of that whole thing that got thrown in there?
I think that the guy that they were threatening was going to tell them anything to get out of hot water. I feel like Eleven's knowledge was better than his about whether Papa is gone or not. I kind of think Papa actually is gone. Except as part of her ongoing PTSD flashbacks.
Yes. Let's start there, actually. We decided we would kind of go through how all of our favorite characters and yours are faring this season on the Stranger Things. So, really, when you're talking about Stranger Things, it begins and ends with 11, right? So, let's talk about what she's been through now.
Oh, well, I really like how they develop her, because they do a marvelous tease bringing her back into the story, because we see Hopper in the shack and he's like getting his beer and it's the end of the day and stuff, and he's talking to somebody off screen and she sits into the frame and it's so marvelous to see her. There's like all these teases, right? Because he's like making a pop-up waffle and everything, but an Eggo. But it's so great to see her. Like, I just felt my body flooded with relief to see her face. And then they do such great interwoven and layered storytelling on Stranger Things that they do a nice filling out of what happened to her immediately after. Like, she kind of disappeared into the Upside Down to keep off of Mike at the end of the original Stranger Things series, and it's absolutely unclear what happened to her. And then we get to see what happened, and she was hiding in the woods alone, trying to survive and being ruthless about it, as we've seen her be before. But it's this kind of thing where she's kind of circumstantially ruthless. I have the same feeling about her here that I did in the first season, that though she is capable of violence and destruction, it always comes from a defensive place. She's not like experimentally cruel. She does what needs to get done, and she was never given a moral compass, so she never hesitates. But it's the same thing as I felt before. It's not coming from an evil place. It's utilitarian, which actually makes it scarier, in my opinion.
In a lot of ways, yeah. And that's really something that she decides to like recommit herself to after her adventure in the big city.
Yes.
Like a few times during this season, she goes in search of the closest thing to family. You know, she goes and searches for her mother, and that turns out to be extremely emotional, but is not an ending place for her. And then she goes and finds Kali and their whole gang in Chicago, which again is a very emotional thing for her, and again, like, the closest thing she has to like a kindred spirit in a lot of ways, but it's not a permanent solution for her, and she has to decide after all of these journeys that where she belongs is with the friends she made along the way.
Yeah. Narratively, there's like a reference to the Odyssey, because what is she trying to do? She's trying to go home, and Hopper describes the shack as a home for her. Becky, who I think is supposed to be her sister, maybe, possibly her aunt, who lives with Terry, says that's her aunt, her home. Yeah, then describes that place where Terry lives as home, and then Kali describes where they're squatting, which looks like a warehouse, as home. And all of these things catch, like, every time someone uses the word home for Eleven, you can see she's emotionally caught by it. But they've all proven false. Every home she's ever had has been false. The home with Pop was definitely false. The one with Hopper's not quite right either, although he's certainly trying as hard as he can. She's not meant to be with her mom anymore either, and she's not meant to be with Kali. They're all false. It's an interesting journey she's on, but a classical one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even though one of the differences in pacing this season, as compared to season 1, is that I think it's a lot less focused in some ways. Like, season 1 is very focused on the journeys of a few characters. It's highly focused on Joyce and on Mike and Eleven and on Nancy and Jonathan, and a lot of the other characters were great, and we talked about them in season 1, but they are not really the featured players, and I think that got a lot more broad this season, with the effect that the story isn't about Eleven as much as it used to be, but there's still a lot for her to do. She's still going on this journey, and she still has to come back to what we know is her actual home, because this is what the TV show is about, in time to save everyone's lives. Yeah.
They lead that they're a little D&D party in the first season. Like, they set it up that way, but they don't talk about it as overtly as they do this time, where the boys like literally say who's in what role, including Eleven being their mage. It's just I just like how they hinted at it and then confirmed it, that was part of the inspiration. Because I feel like the Duffer Brothers are like serious tabletop gamers, like really serious tabletop gamers probably. And I like how they're not, they're not embarrassed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most everything in the show is built around what the Duffer Brothers did when they were kids.
Mm-hmm.
This season they decided, hey, we went to the arcade a lot too.
Yeah, that was a nice set piece. And like all the extras and other small players are just fucking on point always. Like they look perfect and sound perfect, and it's just the world building is so wonderful. Both Pitch Perfect America in 1984 and the horror of the Upside Down. They're both fully realized, and the escapism is perfect.
Well, there's a bit of symmetry, right? There's the creeping horror of the approaching shadow monster, mind flayer, whatever, and there's also all of the lawn signs for the 1984 election.
Seriously, right? Those were beautiful touches.
With the different allegiances of each family.
I was thinking about one of the reasons I love the show so much. I know we're not really doing a good job staying on our character agenda, but maybe we can return to it. But like this point I just wanted to make is I was thinking about why I love it so much, because I'm normally not really a horror girl. And this one isn't really something that's I don't think it's truly horror in genre. It's probably more sci-fi. But one of the reasons that I love it is because obviously the concept of the Upside Down is 100% fantastical. But then why is it so effective to have these creatures running around and all of the visuals with how the sky looks and the way that there's stuff floating around in the air, like all of that stuff? And it's because when we're not doing that, we're so incredibly grounded and realistic. Not like the acting is always right there. It's not overacted. The dialogue is really authentic. Like everything else is really, really grounded, authentic, and understated, and that makes me capable of staying very present in the story even when it goes really wild. And I just love that as a piece of art. I'm never distracted by the artistic choices that are wild, because the artistic choices that are very pedestrian are perfect. Does that make any sense?
Sure. Well, that's the purpose of everything else, is to ground you in this whole world before it all goes sideways.
Right, literally sideways. Upside down, in fact.
Indeed. Even further.
Yeah.
Going back to 11 for a second, let's talk about some of the characters who are kind of more in her orbit this season. Yeah. I haven't read a lot of reviews online, but I feel like the reaction to Kali and the Chicago gang has been mixed.
Interesting.
What did you think of them and their... This goes to pacing a little bit, too. They're in the cold open in episode 1, and then they come back for their own episode, which is very self-contained, for this series at least. Mm-hmm. What did you think about those characters and the way that they were used?
Yeah, I thought it made a hell of a cold open to know that there was more than one. That and of course that's strongly suggested by her name being 11. But I loved seeing them in the cold open, even though I didn't understand who they were, and you only get a hint of who 8 is at the very last second, and then we don't hear from them, but we're hoping we'll see him again, of course. And I think I did start to put it together because 8 looks maybe she's South Asian descent, and like we see the flashback that Terry provides of baby, very small child 11 being in a room with a girl who is similar in coloring, and it's like, okay, here comes, and I was getting excited about that. And then we don't get much time with them, so they're not very fleshed out. I didn't enjoy the teenage boy threatening 11 with the switchblade. That was kind of a lot. But I kind of see why was he doing that? It was fear of discovery for legit reasons. Like they think they seem to have all, like Kali says, they're all outcasts. Like the world has failed all these particular people that Kali is hanging out with, and they did pull together tiny personalities, as much as they're allowed to in the 1 hour that they're given out of the 9-hour story. It was a nice chance to explore what seems like an obvious moral peril of being gifted, which is that you would use it in what the U.S. would call a criminal fashion, stealing things and making mischief. And then of course it turns out that they're doing a vendetta against everyone who wronged them. I think we can understand the wish to pay back, especially if they were receivers of cruelty and bullying, which I think is led by Kali's description of them all as outcasts. So I found their little story great, and I especially like how 11 decides it's not for her. I think she feels a very strong pull toward 8. They call each other sister. They seem truly bonded, and of course 8 gives her very important coaching on how to use her power to its fullest, which is going to be important later. 11 doesn't really fit in with them. I think she even, they dress her differently, and she's stomping around in a mask with them in that scene when they find the guy who was in the hospital administering the ECT to Terry. They find that guy, and they're going to punish him, and she doesn't want to kill him, even though Kali really thinks that she should. It's interesting. It's hard to, as an adolescent person, it's really hard to step back from friendship, and especially someone as relationship starved as 11. She's very brave, but very definitive, and she seems to have really made up her mind when she says she's going to leave 8 and go home. So I think they packed a lot into it, and I enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that episode too. It signifies a lot of character growth for 11, I think. Because, like you say, she's extremely relationship starved, and she is searching for a relationship. She decides she can't have it with Hopper, and we'll talk more about their relationship in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
She finds that she can't really have it with her mother or her aunt. Mm-hmm. And then she finds this sister and decides she can't have it with her either. And I think Kali is interesting as kind of an alternate route that 11 could have taken in life. If she didn't find friends in the way that she did. I mean, Kali has her friends, and I don't doubt that those are like actual relationships between them, because they're all outcasts and they've banded together and all that. But it's a lot more adult a situation, obviously, than 11 would be in as a tween. It's a lot more cynical, and it is a lot more based in vengeance. When we talked about season 1 last year, we talked a lot about how every character is responding to trauma in their own way, and in this season they're continuing to. Some of them have the same traumas, and some of them have new ones. And one of the things that 11 is finding in all of these aborted relationships that she's searching for is different ways of responding to trauma, and trying to find the way that she's going to respond. There's her mother in her semi-comatose, a rather tragic state. There's the revenge that Kali subsists on. And it's trying to find a model of going forward that works for her in terms of moving on from her trauma and trying to find stability in a way that she can live with, as opposed to the extremely restrictive arrangement that she has with Hopper at the beginning of the season. And let's talk about that a little bit, because that is a lot more emphasis on Hopper, I think, than there was in the first season. He was an interesting character, and he was a very well portrayed character, but he was very much in the background for several episodes. This year, he is foregrounded a lot more, I think, and I think the show really benefits from that, because he is a fascinating character in terms of his own responses to trauma and the ways that he tries to find stability by picking a point where things will stay and angrily insisting that things will stay at this point. What do you think of the way that Hopper's developed this year?
Oh, I adore it. I want to put a quick PS on Kali before we move on from her. I liked the detail that we see in the files that Terry was keeping, the story about a missing young girl, who, you know, looks like her. I think they say she's missing from the UK. Maybe is that said in the paper? Or did I make that up? Anyway, she's there, and we see she's a couple years older. And what I thought was fascinating is that her language skills are so much more advanced than Eleven's are. 11 can talk a lot more now than at the end of the previous season that she's been with Hopper for a while, but still, like, her language is quite restricted. But the other girl, who I think was taken at a later date, has much more language, and I liked that detail.
Yeah, absolutely.
So sorry, I just want to shout that out. But to get back to your question about what do I think of Harbor in this season, I think they developed the shit out of him in the first season at a very slow pace, so it didn't seem like it was that much about him, but I found him to be very powerful and central to my viewing experience. And I think the same thing this year, but because it was so much more expansive in terms of story, like there are many more storylines I think this time than there were before. I don't actually feel that he's more in the show than he was, but he's given more different types of things to do. He's in police officer mode most of the time in season 1, and then he kind of comes out of it toward the end. And this time we actually see him in dad mode first. We don't really see him at work as much. And then we see him when he's actually in serious trouble, when he's trapped in the tunnel. And then we see him in we see him in a lot of different ways. So maybe that's giving you the impression of hugeness in the story, which I think, yeah, you could definitely understand it like that.
And I think at the end of this season, he's arrived at an interesting place where he's still acting as a surrogate father for 11, except now it's official. And because of the experiences that he's gone through over the course of the season, he's a lot more willing to understand her needs.
Also, he gets a second chance to be a dad. Like, usually you lose that and it stays gone. We learn that his daughter died at the end of season 1, and he actually doesn't say that she died. He says she's gone. Or no, she's not around. Like, I forget what he says, but he doesn't say that she's dead. And 11 says gone, like a question, and he says gone and confirms it. And of course, his first response to being in charge of 11 is to put her in lockdown, like you said, because she's at such risk, and he already lost someone. I think that's very natural. I think it's natural anyway as children approach adolescence to freak out that they're going to endanger themselves, but then she's a very, very special adolescent, and then he's trying to avoid the pain of the past also when he tries to control her so perfectly. And of course it blows up in his face. Of course it does. And I found their fight to be their fight was really great, actually, the way that they expressed anger at each other.
That fight was an incredibly intense scene.
It really was, because I think when she started using her power against him, I think he was truly shocked about that, like really disturbed by it, and it is disturbing. And then like the way that he yells the rules, because, you know, they're so concrete, like it's just supposed to be these 3 things, but of course, like if they're rules like that, you know, it sounds simple on paper, but it doesn't allow for any. Yeah, it's basically just another type of jail, which is what Kali calls it later. Like he says you can't even do that, which is just something that disappointed parents have been screaming at their children for forever. But I just cringed when he said it, because especially when a child is smart, like something like that will devastate them and then create this huge feeling of resentment and opposition. And of course what she does is leave. Like he doesn't succeed at all in getting her to follow the rules by yelling that at her. He in fact ensures that she'll break them, which is like such a classic parenting mistake. I'm like frantically taking notes because I have children myself. But it's like, even though they're yelling at each other, I still really felt it, like his scrunched up angry face, and she's on the verge of tears. Like it was right there, and yeah, my heart was pounding.
Yeah, it was just such an intense combination of her needs coming out and his, again, reactions to trauma. I think it would be hard for him to parent any child given his experiences with his biological daughter, let alone one with superpowers. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know how you really discipline a child anyway. I really don't know how you discipline a child with superpowers.
And I'm worried for them both emotionally because they're both like it's just so fraught. And then I like the development of their pairing is so great because I forget immediately what happens after the like he stalks off to work and they're away from each other for a while, and then he at one point gets to use the radio to try to explain that he's not late because of the fight. And he's just so he's so sad he's worried and sad. And then what I found fascinating was when he got up in the tentacles in the tunnel, and he's obviously not going to be able to get back out again. I'm afraid for him and for her because he keeps breaking promises to her over and over again, and that's not going to be like her response to that is not going to be good for her. So I'm worried for him, body and soul, and I'm also worried for her. Like it was just like that moment when the vines are creeping over him. Like in a different story, I would only care about him. I would forget about 11, but she's there anyway, even though we're not talking about her or seeing her. The impact on her from that story, from him not being able to get home, is just my heart was in my throat.
Absolutely. Right after their argument, there's a moment where Hopper is talking to her from the other side of the door, and there's a moment where he almost softens and almost like tries to repair immediately and then goes right back into restrictive dad mode.
Yeah.
And just sours the whole thing. Because the last thing that 11 needs at any point in time is anyone betraying trust.
I know. Yeah. And then it's them partnered again to close the gate, and they work beautifully together. And it's just like she's the dangerous one. He's the armed policeman, but she's the fucking dangerous one.
Right.
In that little pairing.
And
go ahead.
And not even the fact that they're the ones together at the gate at the end, but I am so glad that they got that scene together in the truck on the way when they actually got to have an honest heart-to-heart and work through a lot of the issues that have been worked up throughout the rest of the season to that point.
They both acknowledge their own stupidity and stubbornness in such a great way. And then there's the little joke that he makes about them breaking the rules because his I think it's the third rule of the house is don't be stupid. He makes that joke about the rule, but they don't say the rule again. Like they talk to the audience as though we're smart and remember stuff, and I love that. They do that in a couple of different ways, but every time they make me reach for something, it just works beautifully. So I'm really into it.
All right, since we've been talking about Hopper, let's move into one of the new characters this year, someone that apparently Hopper's been talking to quite a lot in the interim. Let's talk a little bit about Dr. Paul Reiser.
Yes. Shout out to Paul Reiser, by the way. I hadn't seen him since Mad About You in, 1991, maybe.
I bet that I'm not alone in having entirely misjudged his character's motivations.
Several times, in fact.
Yeah.
More than once.
Due to the baggage of Dr. Brenner and all of those secret government types from season 1, and Paul Reiser's character from Aliens, which looms large over any sci-fi role he takes. I completely thought that he was another scheming dirtbag, basically. And to see in just the last couple of episodes, when everything goes to shit at the lab, that actually it turns out he was okay.
Yeah, he was okay.
That was a big shock for me. One of the notes that I jotted down in the middle of the season was something along the lines of, okay, obviously Paul Reiser is a sleazy bad guy, but what would it look like if someone with genuinely good motivations took over the creepy lab with the gaping hole to the upside down? And it turns out he actually kind of did have his heart in the right place. What do you make of that character? Did you think the same thing?
I loved him, and yeah, they did several gotchas actually. Yeah, because I felt literally ill when he like ends his interview with Joyce and Will and like basically steps behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz, and it turns out nothing is fine at all still. And I just feel this anytime people lie to Joyce and dismiss her, I'm like, my hackles are up. And he's not really dismissing her. He's giving her good counsel on what PTSD is, but Will didn't have PTSD. And I think the doctor knows that, so I'm pissed. Like actually, I should be more accurate. Will does have PTSD, but that's not all he has. He has other problems.
How many characters on this show don't?
Oh, that's good. That's good. And I like that they are not fighting Paul Reiser's Jewishness in any way. He gets to be the expert Jewish doctor, and I enjoyed seeing that character because I like Paul Reiser anyway. So that was good. Like they didn't try to step on any of his New York accent or anything, even though they're in Indiana. Like they just let him be. Like they brought like, let's get Paul Reiser in here, and they let him be Paul Reiser, which I was into. Story wise, his decision to admit the truth to Nancy and Jonathan and then let them go was so interesting. And it was so baller that Nancy taped him talking, but it was so weird because it wasn't secure, right? Like that discussion wasn't secure if she got a tape of it. And like there's so much weird electromagnetic shit around the gate and the creatures of the gate. Like I thought that would make the tape not work. Like it was an interesting little story thing there, but it's in like holding Nancy and Jonathan makes him seem evil, but then like telling them the truth and letting them go makes him seem fine. Like they swing back and forth a couple different times. And then of course we or at least I felt this way, he clearly is going to go down with the ship when he sends them all out of there and says he'll watch the cameras. Like that's a suicidal thing to do. I think we can all recognize that, including him. And any captain who goes down with the ship has my respect. That's what I felt when I saw him do that.
Even when he had Nancy and Jonathan there, I was still convinced that he was evil, if only because he was still going on about the Russians.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that whole aspect of this is not emphasized nearly as much as it was last season, because last season it was more about using 11 as an intelligence tool, whereas this season it was just, we fucked up and we have to find a way to deal with this.
Yes. The clean up on aisle 5 thing that they have to do about the gate.
Although, of course, the other reference to the Russians this season is the private investigators' speculation that there's an all-out Russian invasion in Hawkins, Indiana.
Right. The conspiracy theory thing. I like how Hopper is shutting him down and he's just quit draining them dry. And I wonder who the hell he's talking about, but then it turns out he's the guy that the Holland family hired. It was another time when Hopper is saying something without, he doesn't hit us over the head with it. Like they never finish the suggestion that he's a hack who's taking them for a ride, but we have that complete impression based on Hopper's brief comment, and then seeing the Hollands, and we learn that they're selling their house, and then we see that where he lives and he's fueled by vodka, and like he's not wrong, but he's also not like a professional private investigator, which is what he's told the Hollands he is. They're not like, oh, here are the story. Like here's this guy's deal, point A, point B, point C. We have to put it together through how they tell the story, which I just adore it every time.
Yeah, I did appreciate the way that Hopper casually shut him down. You get the impression that even if not with this particular guy, that Hopper's been doing this like the whole year.
Yeah, that they've talked more than once.
Yes. And that anyone else coming near it, that dude who had his store door broken by 11, or anyone else who saw her, that Hopper just, casually shuts him down. Oh, that's nonsense. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. The private investigator, I thought, was kind of interesting in the way that you can make a wacky conspiracy theorist interesting in a TV show where the wacky conspiracy theory is the main plot line.
Right? Yeah.
And it turns out that unlike in the real world, this shit actually is true. Yes. Except then, right after he had all of his conspiracy theories confirmed, or at least more detailed, when Nancy and Jonathan went to see them, he started feeding teenagers alcohol and trying to get them to sleep together, which was kind of creepy.
That was a little bit creepy. It was a little bit creepy. I just like how the Stranger Things world, like, it's never Occam's razor. It's never, ever the simplest explanation.
Oh, how interesting would that TV show be?
I suppose that's true. What you were saying about the least likely explanations, it just... but then the characters are so earnest. It just makes me just briefly think about Dustin and his relationship with Dart. We can get into that a little bit later.
Yes.
Yeah, we can finish out with this guy.
He didn't have a huge role in this season. I'm glad to have seen the little extra bit with him right at the end in the sort of montage of where everyone has wound up now, when he's like gleefully watching the lab get closed down.
Yeah, that was nice, and they're all giving him the finger.
So at least he gets some measure of satisfaction taking down the man.
Yeah.
But yes, we have a lot more characters to talk about, a lot more plot to talk about. There's you mentioned Dustin and Dart, you mentioned Nancy and Jonathan and their whole endealment. Let's take a short break and listen to ads for the other podcasts on this fine podcast network we are on, and talk about all of that when we come back.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com, and we offer those to you on 3 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the original Place to Be podcast, as well as Main Event, Lucha Afterground, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows, as well as the Our Vantage Point podcast and Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver quick-hit pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Psychology is Dead, Puro Potpourri, Stacy and Elliot's Bogus Journey, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Letters from Center Stage, Space City, and NWA Classics on Demand Adventure, Through the Years, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Kayfabe, and much more. And on our popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Rank and File, PTBN Dadcast, Go Home in a Box, NBA Team, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the Hard Traveling Fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversation, Geek and Sassy, and Imaginary Stories podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to all of our feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlacementNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlacementNation.com/Amazon when shopping online, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, TheHistoryOfWrestling.com, and Scott Keats' Blog of Doom. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlacementNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
We are back. I am Glenn. That's Alanna. We are talking about Stranger Things Season 2. We are going through a lot of the characters, see where they've gone, where they've been, where they're going. Let's talk about the main things that I'm going to complain about. All right?
Okay.
If you know me, you know where I'm going, and that is the godforsaken love triangles.
Yay.
Thankfully, we didn't get as much of both of them as we might have in an inferior show, but they've still got to be there. For some reason, everyone's got to put them in every piece of fiction. Okay. Thinking back on it from both seasons of this show, the evolution of Steve Harrington, I think, has been a wonderful thing to see, because at the beginning of season 1, and even through a lot of season 1, he was an incredibly one-note asshole jock character, and then right at the end of season 1, it's like he flipped a switch and suddenly started to grow into a decent person.
Yes.
When he actually helped save the day at the end, and when the love triangle with Steve and Jonathan and Nancy kind of fizzled at the end of season 1. I thought it was an interesting choice to have Nancy stick with Steve, but because he had evolved, it wasn't out of nowhere. It's not like she decided to stay with her asshole boyfriend because women like assholes is a thing that a lot of stories seem to think.
Yeah, it was deeper than that.
Yeah, exactly. And so to bring back the whole love triangle this time, I think was more than a little gratuitous. I don't think the actors playing Jonathan and Nancy have romantic chemistry. They have friendship chemistry. They have fine chemistry as actors. I don't think they have romantic chemistry.
Oh, I do, but
really,
that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I do.
Not to mention being shoved together creepily, as I mentioned a few minutes ago by the private eye, was uncomfortable.
It was kind of uncomfortable for that guy to skip over the fact that they're minors. Although maybe Steve is 18, but that doesn't matter. Or I'm sorry, not Steve, Jonathan.
Well, I'm not sure because they're juniors. Aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah, Steve Harrington mentions at some point that he's going to be off at college next year, but if he goes to a local school, he could be around for Nancy's senior year.
Oh, okay. Yep, I recall that now. One way that I don't mind, although it'd be cool if it was slightly more original, but I don't mind because the boys don't actually argue with each other about her directly. Jonathan is like 100% respectful of the fact that Nancy seems to want Steve. It's very clear that Jonathan is being respectful of Nancy rather than yielding to an alpha male, which is, and to me, it's an important distinction.
True. He's not trying to nice guy her.
Right, and he's also not trying to pursue Nancy romantically because he's afraid of getting in trouble with her boyfriend. He's not doing it because he's respecting her choice to be with someone else. And even though they get, Nancy gets her palm read by the private eye who's like, yeah, but you don't like that guy. There is definitely a thing that we do, especially when we're young, that we try to do what we think we're supposed to be doing, or try to want what we think we're supposed to want. And that felt really real, that, she should want Steve from their shared history, and he was, the man of the hour, and he's very good looking and the whole thing, so she should like him. But what about this other thing? And I do feel that they had some passion, especially Jonathan liking Nancy and choosing not to pursue her. Like I felt that before, and I feel it again now. His crush on her and his liking of her, and I like that Steve and Jonathan don't actually they're not vying for her in front of us, which would distress me a lot because it's such a fucking misogynist trope.
Yes.
So I don't really mind that one. I am really, really bothered by another love triangle, though, that I wonder if bothered you. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, but let's get to that in just a second. I will say, to be fair, at least the unraveling of the Nancy and Steve relationship, such as it is, comes because of, again, responses to trauma, and Nancy still trying to deal with the whole situation with Barb and her parents and their ever more desperate search for Barb. So I do like that through line is still there, at the very least.
Right, that they don't forget. Actually, yeah, that is an important piece of the story. Because Barb seems slightly forgotten over the course of series 1, and I liked that too, that Nancy's very upset actually about it. And we learn that it's about a year later, where some people, especially in California where I live, talk about the veil being thin on the anniversary of things that are emotionally impactful, and also especially if they happen to take place toward the end of October. Looking at you, robust pagan community in Northern California. But yeah, like, it's the anniversary of the loss of her friend. I was kind of glad to see those emotions play out a little bit.
True. And again, they're teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I suppose, there's some... I mean, okay, on the one hand, they're teenagers, on the other hand, they're fictional, and none of this actually needed to happen, but... I'm trying to be fair here, okay?
Yeah.
Let's move on to the other, thankfully briefer, in some ways, love triangle among the younger children.
Yes.
The exceedingly unfortunate jealousy, apparently, that 11 has, because she sees Mad Max with Mike precisely once.
Yeah. Yeah, I really didn't care for that at all. Especially because Will doesn't like Max. Not Will, I'm sorry. Mike doesn't like Max. Like, he doesn't like her. He's super suspicious of her. He's the last member of the party to crack, and he actually, I don't think he even ever really fully cracks. And it rings a little false, and it's just not necessary. Like, if they didn't want to think up something good for the dynamic between 11 and Max, then fucking don't do anything at all. I would have preferred zero interaction instead of this super forced jealousy thing. Because, yeah, like you said, it's 1 second, and then, she scoots the skateboard out from under Max's feet, which is a nice callback to the way she used her powers a lot in the first season. But Mike doesn't like Max, and also Mike calls for her on the radio every night. Who does Mike like, 11? It's you. Like, it's very forced. So I think it's like the one false note in the whole story.
It's extremely unfortunate.
Yeah.
Again, to be fair, it's not really concentrated on at all. There's the one moment later on when everyone gets together and Max tries to introduce herself, and 11 kind of shrugs her off and goes to further the main storyline. But otherwise, it's not really harped on, thankfully.
Thank God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you say, she hears him calling to her. We see one scene, there's the implication that she hears him all the time.
Yeah, and that felt real.
Yeah.
So like if you're doing that every day, then I would not worry about this 1 second thing. It's just it's not needed. And like we know that they like each other. Like sometimes jealousy is a shortcut in a story to make a character realize that they like somebody else. We already knew that shit. They knew that before.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have a point other than I don't like it.
And I understand that it's another way of emphasizing Eleven's abandonment fears.
Yeah.
But seriously.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah. And that makes me want to just briefly shout out something that isn't a love triangle, which is that Hopper is capable of being legit friendly towards Joyce. And they are friends. And Joyce has her actual other relationship. And it is not a love triangle. So there.
No, it isn't. And I really hope that there isn't another fucking love triangle in the offing in the future.
You hear that, Hollywood? You can do it without a love triangle.
Good lord. Yes, men and women can be friends. New studies show.
Oh my god, they really can, though. Yeah, anytime that's on screen, I'm into it. Should we talk a little bit about Bob? Is now a good time to talk about him?
Yes, let's talk about Bob Newby, the superhero.
Yeah. Oh, I love him so much. And I like that it's Sean Astin. Wonderful. Was he in the Goonies? He was,
yes.
Right?
Yes, he was.
So that's beautiful, and life makes sense completely.
Well, I think that's why...
You know?
I think that's why during the awesome sequence where he finally became useful to the main plot when he was figuring out the map of the vines and everything, I think that's why they threw in the line about, is this a treasure map?
Nice. Oh, I think you're probably right. So it's a nice Easter egg right in there. And I got strong Jurassic Park vibes from his scene with flipping the breakers and getting into the computer, because it's like what they're doing in the final act of Jurassic Park, which is one of my favorite films of all time. I like how sweet he is with Joyce. I like how he is very earnestly considers himself to be a lucky man, even though she's kind of a social pariah in their town because of all the drama with Will. He's completely unflapped, and he's just genuinely sweet to her, wants to work on his relationship with the children, like completely understands that when you date a mother, you date the family. So he's a very sweet, respectful, genuine guy, and I'm not bored by him. And I like how much she likes him. And then I was very distressed by what happened to him, but he certainly was a hero.
Yeah, and I was never quite sure of his intentions. Partly because if you introduce a character who, in one of his first appearances, wants to take one of the protagonists away from the action, that gets a little suspicious. Like when he starts talking about moving the family out of Indiana, moving to, I think it was Boston.
Or Maine, maybe, yeah.
And
somewhere.
And I have also been reading the reviews written by a friend of mine, Joseph Lee, writing at 411mania.com, has been doing episode by episode reviews for this season, and he was utterly convinced that Bob was evil. That he was a spy, or he was like... I don't think he actually speculated that he was like a secret Demogorgon or something, but that he might have been working for the lab or whatever it was, that his intentions were not positive. And I think that might have been a little cliche if he had turned out to be evil also. Especially if Dr. Paul Reiser had also turned out to be evil. I mean, how much can you do? Sometimes it's actually a more interesting decision to make someone actually what they seem.
Yeah.
Even though he does unwittingly, it turns out, give Will the advice to try to stand up to the Mind Flayer, which then results in him being possessed.
I think that actually might have been part of where the story was coming from, because at that point he doesn't know how supernatural all the shit going down with Will actually is. I think he's aware that Will has a tough time in school. They call him Zombie Boy and stuff, and that advice is really solid when it comes to being bullied at school. It completely falls down if there's like a town-sized fucking supernatural monster that can take you over via your mucous membranes.
Yeah, it turns out that that's just another example of a character not knowing what genre they're in.
Right, and it's like a piece of bad luck that he would choose to give this bad advice. But then it to me, the other component of that is that it shows Will's approval of Bob. Like, Will is willing to listen to Bob and sort of accept Bob as someone who's going to be around because he's seeing his mom. To me, that's lovely, because why would Will have any reason to trust anyone who comes near their family? So just by Will trying to do the advice, like, shows how strong the relationship between Will and Bob was getting before this thing came and disturbed it.
Yeah, as opposed to Jonathan and Bob, who were not bonding at all.
Yeah. But it's more like, that guy? Like, I think it's just kind of wondering what's in it for him, or maybe more accurately, what's in it for her, and just maybe having a teenage boy's extra layer of skepticism, but not outright disrespect. Like, Jonathan's a really respectful guy.
Yeah. But yeah, once Bob actually started to get integrated into the plot line a little more, I think his character really blossomed. It did. In some of the behind the scenes extra materials and such, they talk about how once they cast Sean Astin in that role, they liked him so much, and they liked him in the role so much that they kept like expanding the role. Like at one point he was supposed to die like several episodes earlier. And then they kept moving it back and back and back and back until he wound up dying, I think, the penultimate episode?
Yes, penultimate episode.
Just because, like, they found they liked him so much, and they liked the way he was playing the character so much. So I think the sequence where he figures out the Will's map is very, very good for him. And then when they actually get into the underground Vine cave network, and he figures out that that's where they are, I think that energy was really good. And as a certified dork, I kind of appreciate the scene where Hopper asks him to teach him basic, and he says, "Oh, should I throw in French while I'm at it? Do you understand any of this?"
Yeah, that was awesome. And also, like, the boys eulogize him by saying he was the founder of the AV club at their school, which is just fucking perfect. Yes. It's very, very good. And I was so upset to lose him. That was like a really great classic cinema moment, the dropping of the broom, and it's like set in slow motion, and it really is the dropping of the the executioner's axe, because he was so close. And then I always appreciate in a fantastical story where there's a lot of action, if something like comes and maims and injures you, when people like sort of weakly limp into the next scene and like everything is actually fine, that it bugs me because it's so far from reality. So like those things are so dangerous. And yeah, like if they jump on you have maybe 10 seconds, and I wouldn't expect him to live from that. And so I'm kind of glad from a logical perspective that he can't just survive being attacked that way.
Yeah, I suppose it kind of fails the believability test as much as anything in the show.
Right.
But when Hopper and Eleven were walking through the building in the season finale, I was kind of expecting them to come upon Bob kind of weakly crawling when they found Paul Reiser instead.
Oh, interesting. See, I thought it must have been Dr. Owens.
Yeah, see,
allegedly called. Yeah.
They saw the trail of blood in the stairwell and whatever, and I immediately thought, okay, they didn't have a scene where they entered the building and immediately saw Bob's corpse.
Right.
Although I suppose we're just meant to believe the demo dogs just ate him.
They might have. They seemed hungry.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's just so horrible. And Hopper having to lever Joyce out of there is so horrible. And he has to yell in her face that he's gone to get her to move. That's all very realistic. Like, it's not overdone, is what I'm trying to say. Like, he's very good at crisis management. Like, we see this in season 1 too, as well, when they finally do find Will in the upside down school where he's been, concealed away for later. He's basically in the pantry for the fucking monster for him to eat later. And that's when we get all the flashbacks about the death of Sarah, when he's like trying to give CPR to Will. Like, it's just, he's really good in a crisis. And since he's a cop, like, I would kind of expect him to be, but it's just, he really shines, and it's not overdone at all.
Since we were talking about Bob Newby, the superhero, let's talk about the whole Byers family that he's involved in with Will and Joyce, and her continued journey in trying to figure out what's going on with her boy.
Yeah. Oh my god, I really love her.
Again, the change in emphasis on this season meant that I don't think there was quite as much for her to do directly, but she was still kind of the heart at the center of it. As just a good, earnest person trying to figure out how to get through all of this.
And she just wants it to be over. I like Winona Ryder's Joyce very much. It took me a second to warm up to her when we meet her in season 1, episode 1. But I was already a fan by the end of the first season, and I just like that she's never in denial about the situation, no matter how insane it gets. She's right in it all the time. She doesn't waste any time thinking it's not as bad as whatever, that it couldn't be what it seems to be. She just jumps right in, because she's basically following Will anywhere, which is what I think any mother would do, but especially I'm very impressed by it. She believes what her children are doing and saying. And the other sort of motif around Joyce and Will that I've enjoyed is the thing with the crayons. There's like a little moment where we're remembering Will before he disappeared in the first season, where he's using his little crayons to make the green fireballs that look like cabbages.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's that little moment that we get to see what they were like together at home before we're now looking for him. And we don't really get much from Will in the first season. Turns out Will is an extraordinary actor. What's the actor's name? I forget.
Noah
He's
Schnapp.
so good, though. Yeah, he's really great. And all the kids are great, but he's really great. Yeah, so there's the thing with the crayons in the first season, and then when she's trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with Will, they try speech a couple times, and then she's like, oh, what if you didn't have to talk? And as soon as she throws the crayons at him, he just compulsively, page after page. And that's the real Will frantically trying to get a message out, even though he loses more and more brain to the monster basically every minute that he's possessed. Whatever's left of Will is, she reached it with the crayons, which is great. And then when they're interrogating Will in his role as the spy of the Mind Flayer, and they have him tied up with bright lights on so that the Mind Flayer can't figure out where they are, she tells, and she's trying to get him to be there, see if Will is actually still in there at all, or if he really is only a shell for the monster. She starts telling this big story about the crayons, which made me cry because I'm a mom. But the story about the rainbow spaceship and how proud she was. But I like that because, as a mom, you figure out some things that your kids like, and when you're so emotionally fraught, you would hang on to the couple of facts that you know for sure. And she knows about Will and crayons, and she will rest on that and use that to seek the truth. And I just like how that works in the story.
I am sure that there were significant mom feels around several points in this season when everyone was telling their incredibly emotional stories about him during that interrogation scene, and then when they were torturing the Mind Flayer out of him at the end. And Winona Ryder had some acting to do, watching all of this happen to her boy.
Yeah. The balance of rage and concern was really nice.
Yeah. And like you say, Noah Schnapp as Will got so much more to do this year. And that was one of the things, when we talked about this on the podcast last year, that I said we would have to see how the actor did when he wasn't just missing for the whole season. And it turns out, he's good too.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good.
In sort of this double role as the kind of normal Will and the possessed Will, just the Mind Flayer speaking on its own, and all of these different levels that he had to reach. He definitely got a lot more to do, and he definitely was successful.
Oh, he's really, really good as well. I just love him. I love him because Joyce loves him.
Yes.
There's something about it. It's very powerful. They have amazing chemistry. Actually, the Byers family together is very believable into them very much, including Jonathan.
Yeah. Also, of course, it's required that once a season they have to trash their house.
Yeah, the poor Byers house. That's where one of my favorite Easter eggs ever comes out, is in episode 9. They're cleaning out the shed so that they can put paper all over it and lights and hide where they are from Will / the Mind Flayer. And one of the things that Steve tosses aside is the huge ball of Christmas lights.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
It's so great. It's like it's only on screen for 1 second, but I was just so delighted I couldn't even deal with it. I was squealing. It's just so good.
All right. Since we were talking about Will, let's move on to the other children. As we start to wrap up our whole character journey.
Yes.
Again, the amount that they had to do kind of shifted. Last season was about Mike to an extent, a lot more than this season was, and so that actor had a little less to do, but he still turned out to be important, obviously. As an ensemble show, I mean, everyone kind of sorted into their right place by the end, and that is a dynamic that I really, really love in ensemble shows, especially serialized shows like this, where over the course of the season, people get separated, they get put in weird and interesting combinations, and then for like the final push at the end of the season, they have to all come together and sort into the right combinations for the roles that they will have in the end game of the story. And they did it so well in the first season, and they did it just as well this year, I think. It was so satisfying when everyone finally got together and finally started sharing their information and believing each other. Especially when Dustin would opine about the D&D characters, and Hopper would be there kind of rolling his eyes, and then I forget which one of the kids was explaining that, no, we don't actually think this D&D character, it's a metaphor. Analogy. Okay, it's an analogy.
Yeah. I forget which one it is also. And Dustin keeps getting all distracted trying to get everyone to use the term demo dogs.
Yes.
He can't make demo dogs happen. It's so funny.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the kids are wonderful. I'm so into them, and their tiny, hyper-developed ethics are great.
I appreciated how the expanded budget for season 2 means that Dustin and Lucas have families now.
Yes, that was delightful. I appreciated that a lot.
Lucas's sister, especially, was fantastic.
Yeah, and I was into Dustin's mom too. Like, I feel like she's exactly the kind of mom who would produce a child like Dustin,
Yes,
who I just unreasonably adore.
and the cat. Rest in peace, Muse. Gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, right.
And
I like the whole fake phone call shit to get his mom to leave the house was brilliant. That tiny actor, Gaten Matarazzo, is so funny.
Yes.
He has great timing.
I have a legit quandary because my roommate has not watched this season yet, and I don't know whether to, like, warn him that the cat doesn't make it.
Oh no. Yeah, that was a little gruesome.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that might be required, but I've been scrupulously avoiding spoilers regardless.
Yeah. Oh, here's a question. Since we were just talking about Dustin, lover of animals, who turfs his tortoise out of the aquarium in order to save Dart.
Yeah, what happened to the tortoise? I was kind of waiting to see that Dart ate that too.
Oh shit. Dart probably did eat the tortoise. R.I.P. Yertle.
Yes.
Gone and forgotten.
Sorry.
Shit. Yeah, so little Dustin. Okay, first of all, is the one in the trash can, did Will spit that up? There's a brief suggestion that it might have been the same situation. Or is it just that the entire water table in Hawkins is fucked up from the Demogorgon? It's not necessarily the same.
I am not sure because
actually, never mind. It grows so fast. There's no way.
I was just gonna say there's that implication when Will has his kind of flashback to coughing one up at the end of the first season. But also, if that's the case, I do not understand the biological development of this species.
Right. Yeah, so it's probably not. Never mind.
I mean,
and I like how it's so disgusting, and we all know what it probably is instantly. But Dustin is such a fucking science nerd, and he's not gonna not like it only just because it's ugly. Like, he's not gonna let a tiny matter like its profound repulsive nature keep him from liking it or trying to take care of it, which is just the cutest thing I've ever heard of. Turns out it's quite destructive that he doesn't kill it on sight.
Yeah.
But he won't let them kill him, and the way he smuggles the bigger Dart back out of the school, like I'm like, oh shit, and I like how it forces a conflict between the boys, because there's a light conflict around the handling of Max that is actually not romantically motivated. It's because she's an outsider, which I appreciated them staying with that problem as long as possible, that it's outsider versus who has a crush on her and why. And Lucas and Dustin don't actually fight over her. Like, Dustin takes a step back when he sees that Max had reached for Lucas's hand when the Demogorgon dogs, demo dogs, Dustin, when they were coming, like he kind of like withdraws, like sort of a Knights of the Round Table, like, you have a claim here kind of thing. But they don't fight about that, which I appreciate. They fight instead about lies that were told around the concealment of Dart. So that's like a deep conflict to have. Like, you broke the rules, you lied to me. Like, it's a serious little conflict that they get into.
Yeah, it was a very good way to use all of them, I thought, to have something that rises out of the plot without feeling arbitrary.
Right.
Because of Dustin being such an animal lover and
yeah.
It was all so cute and paid off at the end with Dart momentarily letting them by.
Yeah.
It was just such a cute moment. That was great. Since you mentioned her, let's move on to Max and her whole viscerally uncomfortable family.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Her viscerally uncomfortable, broken, abusive family.
Yeah, they're very show don't tell on Stranger Things, which for the fourth or fifth time I appreciate so much. But yeah, like there's a little mystery about how Max and Billy know each other, and they don't just lay it all out like a Sweet Valley High story. Instead, we get it in drips and drabs and pacing decisions that are good. Getting the full story of why Billy is so shit it does make me feel more complicatedly about his villainy, but he's still a villain.
The first season had the casts of bullies at both age groups, and so they needed another human villain for our heroes. Although by the end of the season, like when their parents came in and the first thing the father did was drop the F word, the one I don't like, I started wondering if they were going to try to pull a move like with Steve Harrington at the end of last season, where he gets some sort of change of heart and like a last minute redemption. And then instead of that, he started hitting on Mrs. Wheeler, which is just the most absurd thing.
No, that was scary. It was scary that he read that would be so effective so easily. Little sociopathy there. Being able to read something like that and produce that effect. Oh, and he really throws Steve a fuck of a beating. That was upsetting. It really was.
Yes.
Oh, Billy. But I also like how perfectly trash 80s he was. Like, he was perfect. That hair was perfect. His jeans were perfect. His stupid jewelry was perfect. He was good. And that actor is also fine. I hate his guts, but he did the job.
Yeah, you hate his guts
really
when you're supposed to.
Yeah. And he was terrifying. He was just as terrifying as the Demogorgon, which I think was the point of him, like you say.
Yeah, exactly. He's the... he's the dehumanizing force of teen bullying.
So awful. He's the James Spader. Like it would have been James Spader if it was actually in the 80s. That'd be amazing. I would totally watch that.
I'm just glad they didn't work him into a love triangle.
Yes, God. Yeah. Any favorite moments that remain to be shouted out by you?
Well, I mentioned it briefly before, the reunion that everyone had at the Byers' house when 11 showed up to save everyone, and everyone immediately fell back into their character dynamics, including Joyce just caring for her.
Yeah.
Which is always awesome.
One other, I guess I can call it a favorite moment, although it was super upsetting, was Terry.
Yes.
What they did to Terry is inhuman. Like, we knew how shit Dr. Brenner was, and he's even shittier. Watching that happen was super upsetting.
Yeah, and knowing that she had a lot of the same motivations that Joyce has had all this time, and just trying to do right by her child.
Yes, what a great point. Yes.
And just being completely overwhelmed and victimized.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess it's another piece of seasoning in the rich stew of Stranger Things. There's so many emotions.
Yes.
God, such a solid piece of entertainment, and I'm really excited to rewatch it later. And actually, interestingly enough, for once, I didn't feel like I had to rewatch season 1 to get ready for season 2, because I remembered so much from season 1 because it's so vivid, so moving, so poignant. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was well situated, and I remembered tons of stuff from the first season, even though I have not seen it since then.
There are a lot of images that stay with you. I'm very much about big iconic images in TV shows, and the way that those moments kind of stick with you, and a lot of the ones from season 1 did. Do you want to mention the Ghostbusters stuff really quickly?
Oh, it's so great! Plus, in that episode, they got to use the song in the closing credits. Hell yes! Love that song.
Because, of course, it's 1984, so... I think
it was perfect.
and then the whole conversation about who has to be Winston kind of lampshades the fact that it's been 30 years and you can still only have one black person on the team in media, which is
oh my god, right?
Yeah,
meta.
A little meta, a little bit uncomfortable, but fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Oh my god.
Of course, season 2 is 1984, which means it's Ghostbusters. Season 3 is going to be 1985, which means Back to the Future.
Hell yeah, they're ready. Although I honestly think it might be done. I really do. I guess we're going back to where we began.
I don't know.
They can tell stories in this universe forever, but I think they're in a good spot to stop, and I wonder if they will.
I think they are probably going to go on for at least a couple more seasons. The Duffer Brothers have confirmed that a 3rd and 4th season are in the pipeline. The producer has teased a 5th.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm the wrongest one.
I mean, we'll see when that happens, and we'll see what comes of that. But whenever that does come, of course, we will be back here on the old podcast to break it down.
Real. Count on it.
As always, Alanna, thank you so much for being here tonight.
My pleasure. I love the old Hour Spectacular, especially when we go pop culture.
Yes. I think we could probably call our shot. You'll be back here this coming December for another Star Wars show.
Yes. Sorry, I can't even say it. I'm too excited. My face started to melt. So jazzed.
Yes. So
yes, it's a date. Date, Mr. Glenny Bun.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you would like to throw our listeners at? Any other podcasts or anywhere you would like to send people on the internet?
Well, what I've been watching lately and would highly recommend is the spinoff from Breaking Bad called Better Call Saul. The first 2 seasons are up on Netflix, and I'm just about caught up on the 2nd season, and it is just as rich, dynamic, fascinating, dark, funny, everything you'd want for that character that came out of that show, Saul Goodman. It's wonderful. It includes one of the best pieces of backstory or pieces of character background I've ever seen that just punched me in the gut and was amazing. So yeah, Better Call Saul, recommend it. And even, I think even if you were not a Breaking Bad person or haven't seen it or were maybe not a fan, you maybe should still try this one because it stands very well on its own.
Okay, that's interesting because I watched, I think, the first 2.5 seasons of Breaking Bad and then decided it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting to hear about it separate from Breaking Bad. I haven't heard anyone mention that before.
Yeah, I think it works even without it. It certainly adds shades to Breaking Bad to know more about these particular characters, but they have their own shit in this story. It's great.
Interesting. All right. You mentioned that there was another podcast that you were on recently. Do you want to plug that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Every once in a while, I am a guest on D. Ray Brinson's Stay Woke podcast, which is for sure up on Apple, and you can find it at the Stay Woke podcast. Also has a Facebook page, and their focus is also sports and pop culture, but they tend to focus more on football for athletics, although not exclusively, and basketball as well. And then they do hit pop culture things, and they also hit some political content. So I've appeared on MCU and comic book content shows, and I've also appeared on feminism, racism, and other politically minded shows. So yeah, check that out if you'd like to hear me with some of my other friends besides Glenn.
Awesome. And if anyone out there would like to find me on the internet, I am on Twitter and Tumblr at GlennyBun, and on Facebook under my name. You can leave a comment. We have comments now on theplacetobenation.com. You can leave a comment on the post for this show. You can leave a comment on the Place to Be Nation Facebook page. Get in touch with us. You know, we'd like to hear what you think. You fine folks who've been with us so far. Thank you again, Alanna, for being here. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. We will see you next time.
Straight Ranger.